Transportation. Well, mainly it's, first of all, it's jobs at the end of the day.
Jobs,
That's why they come here for the jobs. But then there's better transit, there's better food, like food options, like you're saying. All, you know, you can have
diversity,
specialty shops for whatever, like carbon ice cream or whatever. Like you can't find that. Panettone, you know what I mean? Like, what's that?
And it's a vegan's paradise.
Yeah, there you go. You can find some vegan meat or something. You know what I mean? It's like crazy stuff here. I'm just joking. And then,
look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as you sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
Okay, guys, we're on. Welcome to another edition of Broadview Table Talks. And we got the full team here. We got Neil, Michael, and Michelle, and Ken. And we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of the intensification of Toronto, a growing city. That's Michael's topic. All right. So what are you guys seeing as a pro and as a con? So how do you want to do this? Pros and cons? So as you guys know, Toronto's a rapidly growing city. I saw it before Drake made it a city. And I don't know if it's like him being the right place, right time, because we all of a sudden had Raptors doing well.
Yeah.
And Drake came in the scene. He says, "This is my city." But
that was
really,
such an exciting time.
Yeah, it was. But meanwhile, this city just kind of grew on its own. I think he just stepped into, it's my city, man. It's my city. So he's good. Yeah. I'm not dissing his talent.
First, what exactly is intensification? So for people who just listen to this and they don't know what it is, what exactly is it for a city?
Good question. Intensification deals with intensifying, making it more intense, making it more dense. So densification, intensification, same thing. It's like you're seeing, like, if you go on vacation for or you leave the city for 6 months and you come back, and all of a sudden you see all these cranes in the air. Like, Toronto's the most number of cranes in North America or in the world or whatever it is. But you come back in 6 months and it's completely changed. Is because the city's growing. Out of nowhere, you turn around and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Right? If you're not in tune with the pre-build or pre-construction industry and you don't know that these towers are coming, all of a sudden you see this new address on MLS, or you see this new building out of nowhere. That's what's happening. People are moving to the city because of the 500,000 immigration targets that we're trying to hit every single year, and they all need a place to live. And people just naturally gravitates towards cities like a magnet.
Metropolitan centers, where everything is culture, history, food, everything.
Transportation. Well, mainly it's, first of all, it's jobs at the end of the day.
Jobs,
That's why they come here for the jobs. But then there's better transit, there's better food, like food options, like you're saying. All, you can have
diversity,
specialty shops for whatever, like carbon ice cream or whatever. Like you can't find that. Panettone, you know what I mean? Like, what's that?
And it's a vegan's paradise.
Yeah, there you go. You can find some vegan meat or something. You know what I mean? It's like crazy stuff here. I'm just joking. And then you have, what else? You have different diversity in cultures. Diversity in jobs.
Oh, we just came back from Mexico we were there for 3 weeks.
Mexico City.
And one of the things that we missed the most was the diversity of Toronto when it comes to its people, its food. Like, we missed all our favorite restaurants because we have such a diverse selection here.
But Mexico City is like 30 million people, isn't it? Or not more?
Mexico City is just overwhelming. Not a fan. I was a fan for a day. Toronto's perfect.
Explain. I haven't actually been. I've only seen pictures of it and heard stories about it.
Well, let's just say it takes 3 hours to get from downtown to downtown.
So we take 45 minutes.
That's too much.
It takes us 45 minutes. So you're saying it takes
3 hours
from one side to the other
of frustration
because of the traffic, or for what?
Just traffic. If you're driving, I wouldn't suggest driving. Definitely take transit. But even their transit system is way more complicated than our little few lines that we have. Yeah.
So they have trams like we do, or subways, or
they have everything: buses, trams, subways.
So there's no direct route into one side to the other.
No, you have to switch. And if you're like us, you get frustrated. You're like, okay, I'm going to save money. I'm going to take transit. And then halfway through, you're like, no, I'm going to get in a taxi.
Because our transit options suck. And I think the problem with this, and you guys know better, is that you got to share the road with cars, pedestrians, bicycles, public transit, taxis, whatever, right? And a lot of tree huggers, I don't know what you call them, but people out there want to have everybody taking public transit, because it's the most efficient in terms of overall, right? Or bikes, for that matter. But my problem is that I think, and I'm
You're going to get
totally
hate here,
by the way. I love it. No, I love it. I love public transit. I think it's most efficient for the environment. I don't like single car drivers, even though I am one of those people. I have an electric car, so it's better for anyway, whatever, debate. Bicycles are great, scooters are great, and all that stuff. It's just that they have way too much priority, versus a country like Taiwan, for example, where when you have cars at the light, first of all, you have these above ground passes, which I know they're inefficient because you got to maintain them and they're expensive and all that kind of stuff. But at least pedestrians don't block the traffic, right? They're so dang slow. Whereas, you know, when it's a red light, green light, like when it's a red light to a green light, first of all, everybody prioritizes going right and left. Then the straight gets to go. And then it's pedestrians. That's how it should be because they're faster. They get out of the way, clear intersection. I don't understand why it's built the way we have it now. Pedestrians are slowest, get to go first.
Why don't we have like pedestrian walk overpasses?
Well,
I feel like those would be cheap to make.
Well, I think they're
maintenance is expensive
to maintain,
especially because of the cold and the ice. And
it's not very
totally different
accessible. Like if you're in a wheelchair or something, right? It's hard to do that. So and it's really expensive to have elevators, and they always break down. And you have a homeless issue. Like for example, at Liberty Village, you have that bridge over there too. It's kind of not nice. So some more pros and cons. Intensification.
Well, I'm a huge fan of intensification. You know, being from Hong Kong, you kind of get used to being surrounded by concrete and glass, but you make the most of it because you understand that you live in an urban center. So you go to parks, you go to actual places where there are trees and there are playground equipment for children. You go specifically to do the things that you can't do if you didn't have a backyard.
For sure.
And you kind of get used to that. That's why people in Hong Kong actually don't spend that much time inside their units. You know, they spend a lot of time actually eating out or going shopping or going to a library or going to an art museum. They do a lot of things outside the home. And they use the home as a place to sleep and shower. Right. And that's it. Yeah. And that's something that we have a big difference with Toronto because it seems like some people are a little bit hesitant to allow tall glass buildings to grow. And I understand that because you want to maintain the character. You want the brownstones. You want to be able to see the sky when you're walking around. Totally get it.
The history and
the history,
all that, right? You don't want to like not.
For me, it's not the sky. Like I was saying, I feel for me, I don't mind that unless, of course, I lived in a condo and then I had a beautiful view and then they built a condo in front of me. I might be a little bit upset. But for me, it is getting rid of the original Toronto. That's what upsets me. Like I'm all in favor of development. And I even think that adds a certain element of character to our city. Like if we didn't have any condos, it would be boring, right? But I feel getting rid of, especially in the pockets of Toronto, getting rid of the original brick, gorgeous, like Victorian homes and just like replacing those with condos. If I ever live in a Toronto like that, I wouldn't want to live here. I wouldn't, because it's erasing everything that Toronto is. Like I like the nitty gritty parts of Toronto. To me, that's what makes Toronto. Like the red brick with graffiti sprayed on it. Like that is Toronto. But
at what cost though, right? Like I'm just going to play the devil's advocate here. Like, cause it's going to stop development. It's going to slow down development, I should say.
Build on top of them. That is, and I know not all of them can support huge condos on top of them. But I feel like, no. But preserve them somehow. There needs to be something where we can build on top while still preserving.
I mean, look at Distillery. Toronto. Look at Distillery. That's they built on top of them.
And it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, there's a Heritage Preservation Society, whatever. So it's certainly good to have the preservation of our history for sure. And I think it's definitely needed. It's just the challenge of like our housing crisis right now that we're in the middle of. And the problem is affordability. It's affordability crisis right now where it's not affordable to be in the city. And the problem with that is it becomes a playground for the rich. And when it's only rich people living here, you're not going to have anybody serving you food. You don't have anybody serving you coffee, making coffee for you, or doing.
And it also just wouldn't be Toronto. Teachers. If we only had those people, it wouldn't be Toronto.
Right. You need a diverse economic status of people to be able to do all sorts of various jobs that keep the city running. Right. So that is a problem. And it all comes down to supply and demand. And if we're trying to spend too much time preserving the brick and stuff like that, we're not going to be able to have more housing for these people, for everybody to live into, for a country. But on the other hand, if you do that, too much of, changing things up, you're not going to have the history. So it's kind of like, sucks.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
It is.
Like, how far do you go with identification? How far do you go with the historical preservation?
Yeah.
Right, because I'm with you, Michael. I love the convenience of living in a condo in Hong Kong where you go straight downstairs and you have like this food and then bubble tea or whatever you have, like all sorts of shopping.
Oh, elevators everywhere. You've got a subway station inside your condo. Great. You've got like you've got stores. You got restaurants. You guys need to walk to a wet market. Is right around the corner. Like everything's right there. You don't have to leave your neighborhood.
That's soup. Yeah, but the thing is, like, you have like you can walk everywhere within like a 5-minute radius, and you have everything at your fingertips. laundry service.
Yeah.
Right. That's so cool. You don't have to do your own laundry. You bring your bag downstairs. They wash it for you, fold it for you, and come back in like 5 hours, whatever. You get a folded bag of laundry.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
In New York, they actually bring it to you too, which is super cool. Up to like 4-story walk up or whatever.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love that. I love that in a big city.
Convenience.
Yeah. So I wrote down some questions that might encourage some discussion. So what are some infrastructure needs for a growing city that we need to have?
Oof. Well, one of the big problems that we have is transportation, especially public transportation. You know, sometimes it's unreliable, especially when streetcars break down or subway lines need to be fixed. The number of buses that I see running along Bloor, Danforth, plus Yonge, it's a little bit too high for my comfort because I know there's a subway line down there.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that's
getting
not
stuck
running.
behind streetcars.
Even the width of sidewalks, sharing, you know, like on Esplanade right now, people are complaining about the one-way road that they have to do in order to make room for a bus lane, the bike lane, pedestrian lane, 2 bike lanes, I might add, and then pedestrians. And it's like, why are there, you know, these, the neighborhood people are saying that they shouldn't prioritize people coming from out of the city, taking our routes just to get in the highway, whatever. I'm like, the reason why they're ignoring the one-way street is because it's a bad design. It's a horrible design. Like you should, anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Too many of that. Okay. And then another thing we should talk about is the effects of population density on city life.
No, I was going to say, like, one of the problems with intensifying for Toronto, for example, Toronto, as you guys know, history buffers, it's a city of a bunch of cities.
Old people.
No, it's a city of a bunch of cities. Like,
That's what
we collected all the boroughs, right?
Right.
Toronto grew kind of outwards. So
Scarborough.
then
6 boroughs. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I guess one of the problems for these people were like, okay, you're going to build all these buildings here now, and then you're going to ruin these pockets, these neighborhoods. And then you also have to provide service for this area. For example, like these areas can only service X amount of people. So then now they got to build the infrastructure around that. When it comes to servicing buses, you got to create new commercial properties such as grocery stores, convenience, right? So it becomes building outwards, at least intensifying outwards, going outwards is kind of hard for this city. So I see why people, the power's in the homeowners, but I see why people in neighborhoods where we are, for example, Riverdale, they don't want to build these multiplexes and everything. They got to service way more people.
Well, yeah, and also that you don't want to have a whole, like if you're used to your, like people like change at the end of the day, right? And if you have a certain amount of people walking the streets, whatever, and all of a sudden you like double that or triple that, and it's all of a sudden so crazy busy, and it's like, where did my neighborhood go, right?
Yeah.
Like people don't like that for sure.
Yeah.
The demographic changes. So that might not be a problem to some. It is a problem for the people residing in that neighborhood. And again, it might lower their value. Or it will to a certain degree.
Right. So I guess there's only 2 ways to grow the city. It's either up or out, right? And out comes a lot of problems with infrastructure and trying to get everybody into the city and all that kind of stuff, and labor and homelessness.
Urban sprawl
is a big
that's
issue,
a
and
big
the
issue.
greenbelt and all that kind of stuff. Or going up, it comes challenges as well too. Shadows and like if you're used to having sunlight through the park, whatever. That's one of the big considerations the city looks at, and also wind, traffic. Schools.
Well, one big thing that happened a couple of years ago was in City Place. There was like a series of blackouts because the electrical grid just could not support all the condo buildings down there. I think this was like 5-6 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but there was a series of time where I spent 2 or 3 days in my apartment with no electricity.
You live in City Place?
Lived in City Place, yeah.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
I did that during university when it was 80%
Capriel?
cheaper. I lived at 15 Nice Boat Terrace and 25 Capriel.
Oh wow, poor you. No, I'm joking. It's a good experience.
It was good. It was good as a student.
Going up dorm.
It was a good being there as a student, and I got to save a little bit on rent, and that's how I saved up for my down payment for my first house.
Right, right. I guess another challenge of a growing city. Actually, go around the table and ask what the challenges you think are of a growing city. But my challenge would be that nothing is affordable anymore. Right? There's no affordable real estate. That's why there's no grocery stores. That's why there's no more gas stations. That's why there's no more parking lots. Because I guess at the end of the day, the basis of real estate is highest and best use of that land. Get the most efficient use of that land that serves the greater amount of people. So not having grocery stores is a problem, right? Affordable grocery stores. You have these little small little Rabas and like small little micro city grocery stores, or what do you call them? But everything's expensive there. Toothpaste is expensive. Like if you go to New York City and buy a tub of toothpaste because you forget, or tube toothpaste, it's like $7 or whatever. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the real estate's so expensive.
There,
Right. And because they have a monopoly on the real estate on it, right?
Yeah.
That's my challenge. What do you guys see? Challenges or pros, cons, whatever?
Can it just be like a personal?
Yeah, whatever you want. Sure.
Well, it comes back. Like, I wasn't born in Toronto. This is my chosen home. So I feel like if it does, which inevitably it will, if it becomes, you know, just a bunch of towers, it's going to lose what attracted me to Toronto in the first place.
Where'd you come from? I don't even know.
West Coast, Vancouver.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay. Bad city.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Neil, what would you say?
Wasn't that the same? Vancouver, don't they have the same problems right now?
With
basically,
what? Too much density going on?
Yeah, all of that.
City, I guess. Yeah.
Vancouver City, yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Vancouver still has a long way to go, though. It's like, it's tiny. Just, yeah. I mean, it's changed.
My problems were the same to yours. I was talking about servicing for that reason. Like, who's really going to be creating and funding these things? Me, probably, yeah.
As a taxpayer?
Yeah, as a taxpayer.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I think infrastructure for me mainly, like the city services are strained. As we know, healthcare is strained and transportation is strained. Like it's like a battle against the people that want change and want to adopt city life against people who don't. And you see that in every single aspect, whether it's taking public transit versus driving, whether it's building more units around the neighborhood, whether they want to keep their detached homes. And ultimately, I think it's going to become a battle of, who has more power, who has more control over the growth of the city. That's going to dictate where we head.
At the end of the day, I don't think people like change, but the one thing that's constant is that there's always going to be change. So
change is always constant.
So whether you like it or not, it's happening, it's coming, and I think change is great for the city. Having more people, having more density is a good thing.
I was going to say, like, for a pro, because we've all kind of said negatives, a pro for it is, our labor market's going to completely change. We're going to have so many experts come in here, so many smart individuals.
And new industries. For example, we have world-class, Sick Kids is a world-class hospital, like outstanding for children's hospital, children's care. And even like Princess Margaret for cancer research and all that stuff. Like we have the top doctors in the world. Not to mention we have, a big financial center, financial hub, a lot of specialties, a lot of micro specialty industries that you normally wouldn't get in, like if you didn't have as much density that I saw growing through the years. People make money on YouTube exclusively as a job. How the hell's that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how's that a thing now? You know what I mean? That's kind of cool. But like, you wouldn't be able to do that if you were stuck in some small town. Or maybe you could. Maybe you could have some sort of like cottage. But
then they're going to move to a city most likely anyway.
Eventually, right? You just get more things. So that's a good pro for sure. What else do you guys see?
A pro?
Diversity.
Yeah, diversity.
Like a little litmus test that I always do whenever I travel is I go on Uber Eats to see what's available in an area.
Right.
So Toronto, you can get everything. Not only can you get Japanese food, which is sushi, you can also get like teppanyaki, you can get udon, you can get anything.
Yeah.
Whereas when we went down to a city like Orlando, not to knock Orlando, but like we had to drive out and look for food trucks to be able to get that stuff.
Yeah. San Diego, where everything closes at 10 o'clock.
Everything closed.
You have food, good luck.
There's not that much diversity, and that's something that's beautiful because like sometimes Neil and I crave eating pho. We'll just go out and get pho. Sometimes I want to eat Indian food. I'll just go out and get Indian food.
Yeah.
Little known fact about Michael, maybe you know this or not, but he grew up in Thailand, of all places,
cool.
Bangkok. So you've seen more advanced cities. You've seen futuristic cities of where Toronto's headed. I mean, we've all traveled and we've all seen like New York and Hong Kong and places like that. What do you think is going to happen in Toronto? Where do you think we're going to go?
Well, that alludes to my previous comment. Right now, I think that the city is between a crossroads. We can go to either extremes, and it's a little bit scary because it seems like there's no consensus as to how our city should grow. Like every single step that we take is met with opposition and battles. Like we're not on the same page.
That's always going to be the case.
Because
with
of
everything.
Our democratic society of too much like voices. Everyone has too much opinions. You have a left, a left wing and a right wing, and pro development, anti development. It's like right.
Like there are two extremes that I can extrapolate. Like city like Hong Kong, all of the old buildings that my parents grew up in are gone, and in favor they've built really really tall condo buildings. That's absolutely fine. That's the character of the city. Whereas you have cities like Bangkok where urban sprawl is a significant problem, and it takes about 2 hours to drive Bangkok to Bangkok, or you can take transit, which will still take you an hour and a half because there's a lot of people actually lining up to actually take the transit, but also takes you a really long time to travel that distance as well. Because urban sprawl is such a huge issue.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe when I walked into Bangkok and Manila and all that, when I traveled those big cities, how many people there are. Like it was insane just seeing the subway terminal, whatever it was, bus terminals. Yeah, it was crazy. Yep. In Mexico City, I can't imagine seeing that too.
Yeah, it was honestly overwhelming for me. That's why I feel like Toronto is so perfect. It's like this little bubble of joy.
Change is inevitable.
Well, remember when Kayvon was talking to, he did a webinar with the people from India that came from Mumbai and where else it came from, like bigger cities in India. And where he says, it's crazy. You walk out the street and people actually stop for you 200 meters down the road. Right? Whereas over there, you're like, good luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true.
That's a cool thing to see about our city. But I'm excited for the growth. I don't know about you guys. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. This is a controversial topic, right? Like how
it really is.
Change is hard for people.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
And everyone's vision of change is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling right now to picture like how would it look like? Should we grow vertically or sprawl outwards, or grow or not grow those condos, but build those condos in this area, for example, Riverdale. Right.
But what we need is that kind of like almost like not the extreme of one party government like Asia, where they say we're building a subway here, get out, right? Here's a couple of bucks and move. Versus like, you know, something we're in between where powers like Doug Ford or how the strong mayors have more strong powers now to be able to make these changes, because we are in a housing crisis and the only way to get out of it is to either increase supply or decrease demand. And decreasing demand is a very bad thing.
Yep. It's the last thing we want.
Detroit, right? Case in point. You don't want that happening. Oh, gosh, no. Right? So you don't want mass exodus of people. You want to be able to include and incorporate a strong immigrant demand and a strong diversity of people. Include everybody, economic and whatever different classes are. So it's a good thing. I can't wait to see what the next 10 years has to hold. And I'm looking for big changes.
Yep.
Exciting
articles. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to you guys soon. See you in the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Consider subscribing if you like this, by the way.
Add it up.